Welcome to Story Corner, a place where we share the triumphs, struggles, and lessons learned from everyday people. Join us as we delve into the unique experiences that shape us and inspire us to live our best lives. Subscribe now for new stories.
When a baby is born, he or she is handled with the utmost care. So it came as a big shock to Krista when the doctor dropped the premature baby on the floor. But it was what he said afterward that got everyone furious. It was supposed to be a perfect moment, one filled with peace, joy and hope, but it was quite the opposite for Crystal. As Crystal lay on the labor table, her mind was consumed with the fear that her newborn wouldn't survive and that there was no hope for him. The mounting agony made her grip the sheets tightly, yearning to vanish and escape the pain. Suddenly, the doctor entered the room and requested to conduct an examination. Crystal was urging him to proceed with it. However, the revelations that followed were more astounding than she had anticipated. The test showed that Crystal's water bag was protruding and leaking, which meant her baby was in danger since babies need this water to survive. Crystal, who was now filled with terror, thought she had heard it all. But the doctor had even more shocking news for her. Besides the leaking water, the scan results also showed that Crystal's cervix had opened up, and the placenta had come into contact with the vaginal canal, causing an infection. Now, not only was the baby in danger, but Crystal was as well. So as she was battling to save his life, she was also fighting an infection. Upon reaching the juncture, the doctor presented Crystal with two alternatives: to hasten the pregnancy or allow it to progress naturally. Crystal's initial initiation was to expedite the delivery, but she felt as if her world was crumbling around her. She was being elated about her baby only a few days ago, but now she was forced to make an agonizing decision to prioritize her own health or safeguard her child's life. Overcome with emotion, Crystal wept as she informed the doctor that she would let her baby follow its natural course. Just a tiny part of her was hopeful that her baby was in there kicking and alive, so she wouldn't give up on him. You see, not even in Crystal's wildest imagination could she have thought that things could go wrong with the pregnancy, because up until the 21st week everything was fine. Even though the pregnancy was unplanned, Crystal and her boyfriend Diego had been going out for about 6 months before she became pregnant. He came into her life at the exact point when she was ready to let someone into her heart. Initially, Crystal had doubts about starting a relationship with Diego, but things escalated quickly, from their first date to their first kiss, and they quickly became infatuated with each other. They spent almost every day together, but had nothing yet planned on having children, so Crystal relied on birth control pills. However, when she started experiencing irregular periods, she felt that something was missing and took a pregnancy test, which confirmed her suspicion with a positive result. In fact, a visit to the hospital showed that she was already 7 weeks pregnant. Yes, right from a young age, Crystal had always fantasized about being a mother, but then again, it's another thing to become one when you're prepared for it. So understandably, the young woman was worried and scared, but soon enough these feelings faded away, and Crystal welcomed and loved the fact that the little being was growing inside of her. Initially, Crystal's parents were somewhat let down by her situation, but they swiftly adopted and eagerly anticipated the arrival of their grandchild. "You're not alone," her father reassured her. "You don't have to make any sudden decisions about getting married or moving out. We're still your parents, and our home is still your home." Everyone was thrilled to welcome little Ian, whom his parents had already named. Their story was supposed to be one of love, selflessness and joy, without any tragic endings. However, things would take a disastrous turn unexpectedly since Crystal had experienced a smooth pregnancy and no one could have predicted the catastrophe that would ensue. No morning sickness, and apart from craving burgers often, she was fine. Sadly, that was the case until the 21st week of the pregnancy. The family was having a little party, and while everyone was busy whining and dining, Crystal suddenly started feeling sharp pains in her stomach. Thinking it was pains associated with the baby's growth, she decided to just sleep it off and wait until the next day before seeing the doctor. The trip to the hospital the next day even allayed Crystal's fears. The doctor told her Ian's heart rate was normal. She also said that he was directly perfect, tossing and turning, and that the pains were simply a result of the baby's growth. After a joyous return home, Crystal woke up the following day with pains in her abdomen that rapidly worsened. The agony became unbearable, and I knew in my heart that it was not normal. Something was wrong with my Ian, she recounted. Crystal's mother and Diego promptly escorted her to the hospital, where she was taken to the labor and delivery emergency room. As the nurse examined her, Crystal's legs were open, prompting the nurse to immediately summon a physician. The doctor who arrived informed Crystal that her water membranes had ruptured, causing the leakage. He also said her cervix had opened up and the placenta had come into contact with the vaginal canal, causing an infection. Soon enough, the contractions were becoming closer in time. The pain was almost unbearable, and Crystal requested an epidural. Afterward, she had a catheter inserted, but she was feeling so uncomfortable and wanted it removed right away. While the nurses were trying to get that done, something even more shocking happened. Crystal's water broke. At this point, it dawned on Crystal that it was really happening. Crystal was in the process of losing her baby, and she was rapidly transported to the delivery room. Reflecting on the traumatic experience, she remembered, I could see my mom and Diego trying not to look at me while holding onto my hands. I was scared, so scared. Once they arrived in the room, the nurses quickly shifted her to another bed and lifted her legs within seconds. There was a bright light all over her face, and the nurses were screaming, "Push! Keep pushing, he is almost out." After a few pushes, the baby came out, and sadly he was stillborn. He didn't make it, although he fought a good fight. The nurses asked Crystal if she would like to hold the baby, but she told them that she would deliver the placenta first. But that was when the unthinkable happened. Crystal suddenly heard a thought, and looking down, she couldn't believe her eyes. Her baby was on the ground. He had slipped out of the hands of the doctor who delivered him but failed to catch him. But what was even more shocking was what the doctor said next. "It's okay, you're young, you'll have more, you're okay." How could he say she was okay when she had just lost her baby? Crystal was so pissed at the doctor and her family, filled with rage and grief, gave him a piece of their mind. But this isn't a total sad story, and there are still some heartwarming parts about it that will make you smile. You see, as soon as Crystal held Ian in her arms, she felt at peace. When Ian was placed into my arms, I fell in love. He was perfect. He looked just like his daddy. He had the cutest little nose and lips, Crystal said. One of the nurses even gave Crystal and her boyfriend a memory box filled with all of Ian's things, and she also made a hand and feet plaque. How beautiful! Crystal stayed in the hospital for 2 more days, and the most heartwarming part about this story is that the hospital allowed her to keep Ian in the room until they were ready to leave. Recounting that blissful moment, Crystal said, "I enjoyed my time with him. I held him, I kissed him, I touched his little face and cheeks." Family and friends also gathered around Ian, and they prayed for him. Ian was and still is so loved. He is never forgotten, and he is always in our thoughts and prayers. He is missed every day, and as much as I wish things would be different, I know God needed him more than I did, Crystal said in an interview.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Story Corner. We hope you were inspired by today's story and learned something new. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, keep living life to the fullest.